Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest. Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
What's up? What is up? I'm your host, Elia Einhorn, here with a couple of guest hosts today. Joining us from Chicago, we have
Josh Modell, executive editor. What's up?
Hey, man. And here in the studio in Bushwick, Brooklyn with me.
I think my name is still Nick Dawson, editor-in-chief of Talkhouse Film, but I'm not sure as you wanted me to mention, Elia, I am now an American citizen.
I wanted you to mention it because I am excited for you, Nick. As a fellow Celt who had his British citizenship and passport before my American, I want to welcome you to the ranks of the insane, welcome you to the monkey house, and welcome you to people who can help vote for better change in this country.
Nick, is it okay if we officially refer to you from now on as Nicholas America?
For tax reasons, yes, that is fine.
I've already changed your byline in the CMS, so.
Okay.
Well, today's conversation is about America. And as three Americans, I thought we should introduce this conversation. Now, our guest today, Tim Heidecker, and a man who is potentially the next city councilman of Amarillo, Texas, Hayden Pedigo. The backstory to this pairing, I get an email from the brilliant composer William Basinski saying, Elia, I have a friend who's an amazing guitarist in Amarillo who's putting out a record and also has made these viral videos. Have you heard of him? You got to check him out. I checked him out. I shared the videos with you guys, and we were all intrigued.
So Hayden Pedigo came into the public consciousness, or the internet consciousness, if you will, with these weird viral videos. One specifically of him kind of wearing a big suit and making what was essentially a fake campaign ad. And it felt very absurdist, very Tim and Eric. You know, I think Tim and Eric have actually done fake campaign ads. And it led to not only this conversation with Tim Heidecker, which we're about to hear, but an actual run for political office, which is what this conversation basically revolves around. It's kind of a crazy path.
And of course, Tim Heidecker has become increasingly political over the past couple of years, as you know, have most of us. It's interesting because the last time that he was on the podcast, he was talking to Adam Curtis, and so much of that conversation was about politics,
right.
About Trump, about Erdogan, about basically the political chaos that we have descended into. And this is quite a serious conversation in a way.
It is. This is very different than when he first joined us with Chris Gethard on the program, and it was sort of a zany, surreal comedy experience.
You had two guys in the room who were trying to out-funny each other.
Yeah.
That is not strictly what is happening today.
Josh, tell us a little bit more about who Hayden Pedigo is as a musician and now as a politician.
The funny thing is, I don't think people know all that much about him in either context. He's sort of an underground acoustic guitarist and soundscape artist who's really just getting started in music. And I don't think he necessarily would have broken out in the way that he has without making these viral videos and making a campaign video, essentially. So it'll be really interesting to see where his career goes. If he wins the city council seat, maybe he'll be a politician for life. If he doesn't, maybe we'll be hearing about his new record in a year or two.
Let's check out a clip of Hayden's track, Brother, from his upcoming record, Valley of the Sun, that drops on April 19th.
In the conversation, it comes up that Harmony Korine, who is a guest we just had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, was actually weirdly an inspiration for Hayden's campaign. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah, so Pedigo talks in this conversation about how he saw Harmony Korine's Spring Breakers and was actually made him think about Korine's older movies, the sort of weird VHS, gummo kind of vibe, and how that was an inspiration, which, you know, I think those films were also clearly an inspiration for Tim and Eric. And once Pedigo made this sort of fake campaign video, things started to blow up for him.
And it's wild. He's now made a few of these campaign videos. They've been viewed by hundreds of thousands of people on YouTube, Adult Swim, and various political talk shows that he's been the guest on.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people thinking about him now. There's a Rolling Stone piece on him. And on the day of this conversation, there was actually a documentary film crew following Pedigo. Apparently, they're making a feature-length documentary.
Right. The crew actually followed Hayden to Los Angeles and to Tim Heidecker's private studio.
It's funny because it's kind of like we've come full circle in some way that Hayden had his videos on Adult Swim, which is, the home of Tim and Eric. Tim had his own kind of jokey campaign for DA of San Bernardino County, and that's kind of how Hayden's stuff started out. But now we have the movie about Hayden happening as he and Tim talk at Tim's house. It's pretty wild.
The snake is eating its own tail, Nick. Nick America.
Now, since we last caught up with Tim Heidecker, he has been up to a lot. Of course, he's in the blockbuster film Us. That's Jordan Peele's new thriller. Tim plays Josh Tyler, the father of the affluent white family in the film.
He's also in Ant-Man 2.
And just made a TV special with Jenny Lewis called Jenny Lewis's On the Line Online. That was a 3-hour live event with music, magic, a call-in hotline, and Tim co-hosting with Vanessa Bayer.
He can do it all, that man. He can do it all, including, DA. Stands for do it all, I presume.
I think so. Now, in this talk, we don't hear so much about what Tim's been up to. This is really a conversation about the state of the nation and the state of Amarillo, Texas, and the state of Hayden Pedigo's run.
It is. It's a really fascinating insight into sort of the intricacies of local politics and how this sort of Jefferson Smith / John Fay character can emerge and actually become a viable political candidate.
We get to hear about rodeos, AAA baseball, and Bomb City. Should we roll the tape, boys?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Roll the tape.
Okay, I'm here with Hayden Pedigo.
Yeah.
Who some of you may know, some of you may not know. I know almost nothing about you, which I think might be the same experience the listeners are having right now. So who are you? Why am I talking to you?
My name is Hayden Pedigo. I'm from Amarillo, Texas, which is a town of about 200,000 people in the panhandle of Texas in the Bible Belt. I'm an experimental musician, but the main thing I've been talking about recently is I'm running for city council in Amarillo, which is my hometown. So that's what I've been doing the past few months.
So you're born and raised?
Yes, born and raised in Amarillo.
Give me a snapshot of Amarillo. Like what kind of town, what kind of city is it? I know you say it's 200,000 people, but what do we need to know about Amarillo?
Amarillo is like a very dusty, bizarre kind of place, very much cowboy culture, very much Western culture. We have Pantex, which is the one of the largest distributors and builders of nuclear arms in the country.
I thought that was like a sanitary napkin.
A Pantex?
Pantex?
Close. I think
tampon.
That's Kotex.
Kotex.
Yeah. Kotex makes tampons. Pantex makes nuclear bombs.
They make nuclear bombs?
Technically, they take them apart. That's the thing. Pantex disassembles nuclear bombs. But the thing is that you can turn that around very, very quickly.
Really?
Yeah.
So why do we need all these nuclear bombs dismantled? Are we downgrading our arsenal?
No, it's not downgrading. It's essentially they get taken to Pantex where they're disassembled. They don't necessarily need to be put together, and they're disassembled there, so it's, I guess, safer. And then if something were to happen, they could be put back together. But it is a very, very closed off place at the edge of town. A lot of people were upset when Pantex came decades ago.
Pantex makes me laugh.
Yeah.
The name.
Yeah. It's that's why people started calling Amarillo Bomb City, because we were just sitting on a giant stockpile of nukes.
And so the nukes are there, and then the radioactive material is removed and somehow stored safely?
Yeah, it's all stored.
Was it put in like the side of a mountain or something?
No, that's the thing. Nobody knows what goes on in Pantex. Nobody's allowed to talk about it. I've met people that have been employed by Pantex, and they can't say anything.
You, as a potential city council member, do you have any say or jurisdiction or influence over what happens at this factory?
It would most likely be tiny, because the thing is, Pantex, I think it's the second or first largest employer in Amarillo. The Amarillo School District, I think, is number one, and second is Pantex. Third is potentially Bell Helicopter, which they also put together military helicopters, the Osprey.
Wow. So what do people in town do at the factory? What would you think, like the baseline? Is it just...
At Pantex?
Yeah, are these highly trained engineer type
Yes,
positions?
a lot of that's going to be engineer type jobs, but everyone always jokes in Amarillo, you go work at Pantex because you get paid. They always say like $40 an hour to be a janitor. Like they pay really well. And that's
Right.
why there's a lot of people that end up working out there.
So does that make the community an affluent, interesting community? Because not necessarily to say that affluence goes with interesting, but if you have highly educated people, those and with money to spend, they generally create a city or a town or whatever full of things to do and culture.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say Pantex brought a whole lot of culture to Amarillo because, I mean, Pantex and the railroad, like we have BNSF Railroad out there. Those are kind of like the two employers that a lot of people, especially if they don't have a college degree, go to work for those places because it's one of the few places in Amarillo without a college degree you can make decent money. You don't necessarily have to have a degree to go work out there. But I wouldn't say Pantex brings culture because the people that work there are making decent money.
If they're making decent money, what would you guess like the average well-paid Pantex employee does on a Saturday night?
They probably drive a fairly nice truck. They are married and have 2 kids. They go eat at Texas Roadhouse and maybe go see a movie out on the nice part of town. That's what I would assume.
Hey, I could say the same thing about my weekend, except for the truck. Let's step back a second. How old are you?
I turn 25 next week.
Yikes.
Yeah.
And why are you running for political office?
So to explain that, I'll just give the backstory really quick because the backstory is tied into why I'm running.
Oh,
so
fair enough.
Last August, I was up one night and watched Harmony Korine's movie Spring Breakers, and I was personally very disappointed with it and thought to myself, I miss his old films he made, like the VHS ones that were just really raw and really rough. And I messaged a friend of mine. I was like, hey, tomorrow I want to go make a video. I'm going to go to Goodwill and get a suit and let's make a video at the junkyard. I wanted to be a used car salesman in a junkyard and we make this video. So the next day, my friend shows up and the junkyard closed at 3:30. He shows up at 4. And I had already bought this goofy looking suit from Goodwill that I was wearing. And I was like, well, let's go make a video because I've already bought the suit and we're here. And I downloaded one of those stupid VHS emulator apps that makes it look grainy. So it was very simple, not professional. So we jumped in the car, we're driving around. My friend says to me, he was like, you should do a video like you're running for public office, like for mayor or something. Right. I was like, okay, perfect.
So you decide to make a video, but you have no kind of idea what the video is going to be about.
Yeah. It was while we were driving to go find a video. It was kind of just a chance thing.
Right.
And this is in Amarillo during the summer. It's probably 105 degrees out. It's just extremely, extremely hot out, and I'm wearing this wool suit. So we go to a park. I have a metal folding chair in the car and a tape measure. We go out there, and it's just me measuring the sidewalk. It's me crawling on the ground. I throw this metal folding chair off of a cliff. Just these kind of absurd things. Right. And it ends with me. I say, my name is Hayden Pedigo. I'm running for City Council Place 2. I believe that a lot of local small business owners out here are straight up getting bonked. And I grinned, and that was it. I went home and edited the video and finished it and put it on my Instagram. And I put the super distorted Danny Brown instrumental over it, just this really just rough sounding thing. And my wife was like, you should put that up on Facebook.
Your wife?
Yeah.
This is news.
Yeah, I'm married. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I always joke I did the ultimate panhandle thing. I got married right when my wife turned 20, right when I turned 21.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
not because she was pregnant.
No judging.
Yeah.
Just unusual these days to find 20 men in their 20s, women in their 20s married.
Yeah, but it's more normal in the panhandle, I feel like. It's more of a normal thing. But I went home and did some editing on my iPhone and iMovie, put it up on Instagram, and my wife said, you should put that up on Facebook. And I was like, I usually don't put any of the stupid stuff on my Facebook. It's really just Instagram. She was like, oh, just put it up there. So I put the video up on Facebook, and people were liking it, people were sharing it. And the next day, it was like at 300 likes and had 400 shares on it, and it kept growing and growing and growing and getting more traction. And then a couple of days later, it was at 70-something thousand views. It had been shared 1,000 times. And I was getting messages from a ton of people in Amarillo that thought I was actually running for public office. They thought, oh, this guy's actually running for city council. The local news reported on it and said, Amarillo man announces city council run with a surreal video. And this was like on News Channel 10.
Right.
You know,
and
like
you hadn't filed or done any.
No,
this is
and
just
this-
the video's out.
This was half a year before you could file. So it's like I was campaigning half a year before an election started.
Did you know? Did you even have an awareness of that when you were making it? Did you
No,
know?
I didn't. Yeah, that was the thing. I didn't have any specific political aspirations when I made the video. It was meant to be this absurd thing. And then 2 weeks in, I got a message from a local radio station called News Talk 940, which is the local conservative talk radio. And they're like, hey, we want you to be on the show. And I reluctantly said, okay, I'll come on. I thought I'd be on for maybe 10 minutes. I show up, they put headphones on me, and they're like, okay, we have Hayden on for the next hour.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, okay, this is legit. And the host starts asking me questions about what is it you're doing? Why are you doing this? And surprisingly, he said, I like what you're doing because it's starting a discussion on local politics amongst people your age.
Yeah.
Because Amarillo's population, 40% is under the age of 30 of that 200,000. So there's this massive group of young people, but none of them vote. My demographic does not vote.
Especially in local elections.
Yeah, they don't pay attention.
No interest.
Yeah, and for a while I was one of those that didn't pay attention to what was going on. But what I started noticing even before the video was made was there was a lot of kind of strange things going on in Amarillo, a lot of redevelopment by a lot of very wealthy people. And it was very one-sided development, racking up a lot of debt and a lot of suspicious things going on that I started taking note of. So while this video was blowing up and people are talking about it, I had a lot of people start messaging me, hey, you should actually run, consider running. At the time, I was kind of like that's not really something I set out to do because that's a lot of responsibility and it's incredibly nerve-wracking. Amarillo politics get very nasty. Like there's...
I mean, I probably could say that about anywhere.
yeah, but it's almost to a ridiculous level for a city council race in the Texas Panhandle. So over the next few months, I started doing a lot of research, meeting with ex-mayors, ex-council members, trying to learn as much as I could because I was kind of considering it. Because I was like, I live in Amarillo. I make experimental music, really weird music. I'm a fan of Amarillo. I love it because it's so bizarre and strange, but I do feel like it is stuck in the past.
Can I ask you a question? Do you make your living making experimental music?
No.
Or how do you make your living?
I work at a credit union.
Okay.
Like banking type
you're
job.
a banker.
Yeah, that type
You're a
of
bank
job.
teller.
Supervisor. Yeah, I don't do the teller stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at a supervisor at a bank. That's my day job is a very, very plain banking type job in Amarillo.
By the way, you look a lot like Michael Cera. I got to get that out of the way. People tell you that.
Yeah.
You are, upon first impression, you seem like a hipster.
Yeah.
You've got the jacket. You've got the baseball cap. I don't know what your baseball cap says.
It's a W for the Amarillo Wonder. It's a little baseball team my friend made.
Okay. He made the baseball team. He put the baseball
team
team
made
together.
the uniforms, made the hats.
Okay. And I can't see your pants, but you're probably you got the Converse on.
They're cut.
Are you a rarity in Amarillo as a cultural stereotype, or are you is there a hipster scene?
Yeah, there's definitely a hipster scene in Amarillo.
I got to go and do a show there.
Yeah, well, oddly enough, I almost booked David Liebhart like a couple months ago, and actually the show was this week in Lubbock because no venue in Amarillo would pay the guarantee. But obviously it's Amarillo; they don't know who that is, and they're not going to waste their time. So Lubbock got the show. It's an hour and 45 minutes.
Buddy Holly's hometown.
Town, yeah, got the show.
But there is a you have a hipster coffee shop.
Yes. Yeah. The
Where,
806.
what's his name? Jacob Wall can be found.
Yeah, there's a place called the 806 that's like Amarillo's hub for hipster culture kind of thing. It's the cultural hub for artistic types in Amarillo.
Right. And so you have that vote locked up.
Well, no, that's the tricky thing is I can get support on the internet all day. I can because as this whole thing is developed, that's something that I've had to stress as I moved away from the absurdity and started getting into points of why I was running, because I wasn't going to run for city council as a joke. It's annoying.
It's a waste. It's a bad joke.
Yeah, it's a waste of everyone's time, and that was part of the reason why I was like, if I'm going to run, I want to. I at least need to have a decent enough reason to run, which which I think at this point I have developed pretty decently on the reasons why I'm running. Essentially redeveloping our government system. Amarillo utilizes an at-large government. We have a mayor and 4 council members that are all elected at large. In a city of 200,000, that's kind of a rarity. A lot of cities our size have single-member districts, meaning each council member is elected by the district they are in. You're not going to run representing the whole city. You're going to represent where you're from.
Right.
So there's going to be 6 to 8 council members, each elected by their own district.
Right.
And the mayor, sometimes mayor at large. But Amarillo has a mayor, 4 council members. They're elected at large across the board. And voter turnout is less than 10% of 200,000 people.
Okay, and you don't like that?
No, it's a terrible.
I agree. We probably don't like the idea that voter turnout is low, but you'd rather see districts elect their representative.
Yes, because Amarillo has a super diverse population, a huge Hispanic community. We have one of the highest immigrant populations in the whole state of Texas, which Texas Monthly read a pretty long piece on that.
That's impressive considering it's Texas we're talking about, which I would think a lot of cities have. El Paso or something would have large immigrant populations.
Yeah, surprisingly, Amarillo is one of the largest in the whole state. So Amarillo is very culturally diverse, but I've said to a lot of people, Amarillo has always been segregated by design, and it still is. And I think it's a symptom of the government we've utilized. And a lot of these certain neighborhoods, like the San Jacinto neighborhood, the North Heights neighborhood, these are more historical, cultural neighborhoods have been left out of the discussion and haven't been, there's been no attention paid to them for decades.
So if you regionalize the city council, you're encouraging those neighborhoods to put their people, quote unquote, their people into the city council.
Yes,
now that's not happening. Why?
Because when you have at-large elections where you have a mayor and 4 council members elected at large, it's a lot easier to sway those elections financially, because there's a PAC group called Amarillo Matters that funds the current council, the incumbents that are sitting. They're funded by this PAC.
I see.
They funnel insane amounts of money, centralized into pretty much a few areas in Amarillo where they know the voters are and they know they will win it. So a lot of those PACs that are paying the huge money for these candidates from that area just centralize it to certain spots to get those voters, and they rely on the low voter turnout. It's a lot harder.
So it's like a pack. It's like a package deal.
Yeah,
they're providing. Here's the mayor. Here's the 4 council members. If you vote, the mayor kind of endorses the council members and sort of says, this is our squad.
Yes, they run as a team. And the thing that's tricky is like our current city council, there was a controversy a couple of months ago because there was a building the city purchased downtown for storage. And the building was purchased for, I believe, $300,000 more than its appraised value. And then it starts to get tricky. The real estate group, this group that the city worked with to purchase it, one of the people that's on the board of that group is the mayor's husband. So you start to see that there's a lot of this you scratch my back kind of deal. In Amarillo, the biggest controversy we've had is there's been a ballpark that was built, this $50-something million ballpark, to have, I believe, like a AAA team in Amarillo. And it's been the biggest controversy over the past 4 years because a lot of people didn't want it. They said it was going to put us in a lot of debt. And they went ahead and did it. A lot of people felt like the city as a whole, their input wasn't sought out in doing this. And there's a lot of strange things that have gone on with that. This baseball park is called Hodgetown, which is named after our old mayor, Jerry Hodge, who he actually came into controversy in the 90s for this thing called the Ultimate Hunt. And it was written about, no, this is awful. It was written about in the New York Times. No, it's the title alone is hilarious. In the 90s, Jerry Hodge was involved, I believe, a lot with providing pharmaceuticals for prisons in Texas. And there was this thing they did where they were training
I mean, listen, if you're in prison and you need medicine, of course, we're glad that's happening.
Yeah, but I'm sure
there's some bad shit going on.
Yeah, that's they make a lot of money off of that. It's not good. But what ended up happening was Jerry Hodge was involved with this group that they would train these tracking dogs to track escaped prisoners, and they would do this thing. They would have prisoners agree to like go out in this wooded area and be chased by these dogs, to be chased by tracking dogs, and Jerry Hodge and all of these people would go out there drinking beers, and they had custom embroidered jackets that said the ultimate hunt on the back. And prisoners legit got injured during this. They, quote, agreed to do it.
Well, it sounds like there are rats all over the place in these small town politics. People kicking back and making side deals and are not in it for the public good. Perhaps Amarillo is worse than other places, but you have to assume this is going on all over the place. Right?
Yeah. And the scary thing is you feel like this stuff almost feels impossible to stop, especially with the situation we're in, where these elections are being decided with money. Right. Essentially, it's hard for somebody like me when you're 25 and you come in and you start disagreeing with how they do things. Because I had people come up to me saying, "You better be careful. You're making a lot of like rich
enemies."
Making a lot of enemies, and you're making like a lot of rich old people angry here. Because Rolling Stone wrote a piece on my campaign that went pretty. It was on the website, and it went pretty aggressive politically.
Right.
And somebody told me that a higher up person in Amarillo was not very happy about that. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, sorry, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that seems like good, but also, not to be dramatic, but you should probably be a little, aware that people might go to extreme measures to not necessarily that you should fear your life or anything, but that who knows if they're going to try to maintain that status quo, who knows what they might do.
Yeah, and that's somewhat, it's a little nerve-wracking, but again, it kind of drives me to do it because I never want to live in a place where I'm not allowed to criticize something.
No.
Because it might make somebody angry, and I won't
change the way they do business.
Yeah, and that was part of the reason why over the course of the weird videos, then developing into an actual run, the moment was I was invited to speak to a local high school, to a government class, and I was kind of a little nervous because I was like, I'm not really sure if I'm qualified to speak to kids on this. But the teacher was like, just come speak to the kids. They'll love it. They showed them the videos. The kids laughed. I think they related to it because they were just these ridiculous videos. And then afterwards, they let the kids ask me whatever. And they were like, how does the city council work? How do you run for city council? Like asking a lot of these questions. And then afterwards, a kid came up to me after I finished. And he said, I grew up in kind of the rougher part of Amarillo. And he said, I see downtown being redeveloped and it's beautiful and it's great, but I can't afford to go to any of those places. He said, do you think Amarillo is only getting better for one group of people? And this kid in a high school class hit the nail on the head more than any adult that had approached me about the videos, just with kind of pointless questions with no substance. And then a kid hits the nail on the head.
Yeah, what is that? That's a very deep observation, a very complicated answer, I'm sure, that would go along with it, is because what does that mean? Does that mean, when we think of a gentrified area, we think of a nicer part of town, that nowadays includes sort of just the stores that are more expensive to go to, right? There's I don't want to single out any certain company, but it's going to have the poke shop. Yeah. Or it's going to have, it's going to have more expensive items because downtown commercial areas are really just now constructed for consumers, right? Yeah. They're for purchasers of food and clothing and whatever, gadgets.
Yeah, but the scary thing with the downtown development in Amarillo is Amarillo, one of the biggest things that brings income is the rodeos that come into Amarillo and they fill up hotel rooms and event center. And for years, people were complaining that our event centers are too small and they need to be updated. So instead of doing that, all of a sudden Amarillo's like, oh, we need a ballpark, which isn't really a money maker. It's more of entertainment for the people that live in the city, but it's not going to be a big driver for income. And they told everyone, oh, it's not going to come out of your taxes. It's going to be paid for by hotel occupancy taxes is what it's paid for.
Okay.
But the scary thing with that is, while it is true that that's how they're paying for the stadium, those occupancy taxes can be used for arts and culture across the city, not just one centralized part.
Right.
But now they've invested so much into that ballpark in downtown that those occupancy taxes will most likely be tied up for the next 20 years. So it'll be useless.
Right.
You know.
And also, baseball's a weird thing to like hang your hat on, no pun intended, but it's not the biggest driver. It's not like the most forward, future-thinking form of entertainment. There is,
Yeah, and
like,
especially in
you look at a random minor league game attendance, it's not going to be very impressive, I would think.
Yeah, and especially in a town that's known for cowboys. It just seemed odd that we are risking losing these cowboy type events, rodeo type events that actually bring us money and make more sense within our history, because that's Amarillo's history. We're a cowboy town, ranching, rodeo type things. And those are the things we're risking losing to bring something that's not really specific to our area. You know.
So what's driving the baseballs, the ballpark?
I think a certain group of people that were like, oh, it would be cool to have a ballpark. And the fact that the ex-mayor, it's named after the ex-mayor who was involved with that. And there was just a lot of strange dealings that have gone on. Like
It's a vanity project.
It kind of is like a vanity project. And there's been humorous things I've noticed, because Amarillo has like one big gas station called Toot and Totem. It was like the big gas station.
I had one of those too. I had one of those this morning.
Yeah. It has a corner on the whole market in Amarillo. Started going to Toot and Totem. Now all the Toot and Totems are selling the merchandise for this baseball team.
Sure.
It just feels very like brazen, like these buddies are like, oh, I have the ballpark, you sell the shirts in your gas station, and it almost feels like a slap in the face.
Right.
And nobody has a say so on that, you know.
Okay, so let's. Where are you ideologically, politically?
I've always said that I kind of just exist in the middle, maybe one of those younger people that's fried on politics. I think that's kind of one of the points I made when I started this. A lot of the reason people my age don't vote is they feel fried and they feel ignored, and it's just like they feel politically exhausted. So, I mean, especially with the city council race, you don't really run like with any type of party stance.
Right.
I mean, people do it.
Are you running as an independent or
Well,
is it?
you don't run like for city council. You don't run as a party. You can say what you are if you want to get that fan
So
base.
you're not affiliated with a party?
No,
you're just a guy.
Yes, because
You're just an experimental musician.
I'm just an experimental musician. Yes,
Experimental musician party.
Yeah, that one works.
Okay.
But because when you're dealing with city council-based issues, you're not really going to be dealing with party-based issues. It's going to be like, what would you do for job creation in Amarillo for people under the age of 30?
Right.
You know, the funny thing was last week, since forums have started, I've been starting to do forums. You get invited to all of them. All of the candidates do. And you're usually expected to be at all of them.
Right.
You don't opt out of forums. So I was invited. I got a message that I was invited to the Amarillo Tea Party Group forum at a church. And I didn't know Amarillo had a Tea Party Group. I didn't know that was still a thing. So I go to it. It's at a church, and it's a pretty older crowd, an older type crowd.
Surprising.
Yeah, it was.
You said church and tea party. I figured this would be like the
all the
hot
teens,
spot.
yeah. So I go up, I give my speech. I have 1 minute, and they said this is
1 minute.
Well, essentially how it works is you go up to a podium. They said you have 1 minute to introduce yourself, tell your backstory.
That's fair. Little introduction.
And all the other candidates were like, I went to Baylor and met my wife there, and we have 2 daughters, and they play volleyball, like that.
Right.
I went up there and said, my name's Hayden Pedigo. I'm 25 years old. I'm running for city council. Like I went into my politics because I said, I'm 25 years old. I don't have a big backstory to give you. I just have the reason why I'm running. Because when you're younger, already you feel like you have a way shorter time span to get their attention, because I think it's a lot easier for them to write you off. And I said, I want to see Amarillo be a more progressive city. A guy came up afterwards and he was like, what did you mean by progressive?
Right.
He was like, one of the guys back there said that he wanted to punch you in the face when you said progressive. And I said, I meant like
mandatory abortions.
Yeah. Well, I said, you literally have to be gay now. Yeah.
You said that to him.
No, I thought it, but that was the thing. I meant progressive in a literal sense of progress, but it's almost like
it is funny how that's become a derogatory term for people, progressive.
Yeah, that was the one thing I noticed was it seemed like they were more eager to, I don't know, pin you on things
Sure.
that maybe didn't even have to do with city council at all. And then afterwards, you had to walk around and shake hands and meet people.
Yeah.
And the incumbent Elaine that I'm running against, she kind of, after I did my speech, she went up, she's like, well, I'm going to follow the rules and keep politics out of it. Like kind of upset that I brought my politics.
What else are you supposed to do? I don't understand.
I was supposed to say I went to Baylor and met my wife and
Right,
played basketball.
biographical
Yeah, something like that. You know, they didn't like that I brought in the politics right up front.
Very strange.
Yeah.
But I guess there's two ways of looking at the how elected officials come into our lives. One is, you could argue, is that after a life of pursuing your career or your service or whatever it is, you know, elected officials are people that come with great experience, that come with a life story or sort of demonstratable skills that they can refer to. You know, we talk about people wanting to have people with experience leading us. Or, you know, but then I guess on your side of it is somebody bringing youthfulness, bringing energy, bringing somebody whose actual life is tied to the choices that the city council makes.
Yes.
And who wants to create his own future, wants to sort of help determine his own future.
Yeah, and I think what I've told a lot of people when they comment on my age is I say, while I may not have as much experience as the current council has, I also am not indebted to anyone.
Right.
I wouldn't be doing this because I owed someone a favor. If you're on city council, you get paid $10 a week. You don't get paid to be on
$10 a week.
$10 a week.
So you're not quitting your day job.
I couldn't.
If you win.
No, I couldn't.
Well, you could probably figure out a way to live. Does your wife work?
Yeah, she works part-time and goes to school right now. So,
Right.
I mean, I kind of work full-time and she does that. But yeah, you can't live off of
$10 a week.
Yeah, you can't do much with that.
Which is fine. And I think that's probably how it should be. And almost on any, I mean, if you look at even on the national level, it's certainly back in the day when this system was set up, there was sort of the idea that you would be kind of part-timing as a representative, or this wouldn't be the way you wouldn't build a career being a legislator.
Yeah, but here's the flip side of that situation in terms of city council. If you pay $10 a week, sometimes it raises the likelihood of it being easier for a independently wealthy person to do it. Because if you have someone that's independently wealthy and retired, $10 a week, that doesn't matter. They already have money. As opposed to, let's say you are a dishwasher and you want to run for city council. Or anything that doesn't,
supervisor.
yeah, or any of that, anything that doesn't pay that much, it's a lot trickier for you to run because you're like, well, I can't live off $10 a week.
Right.
So that's kind of the argument I've heard people make, is saying that by paying $10 a week, it's biased to have it be more wealthy people that run because they're usually retired and have a lot of time on their hands that don't need money. So it makes it a little easier for that.
That's interesting. That's a good point. I mean, yeah, there's a certain amount of our taxes that we pay that should go to helping keep the infrastructure of our communities going. Yeah. And that includes somebody to manage it, somebody to kind of democratically handle the decisions that need to be made.
Yeah, well, the bizarre thing, though, with Amarillo is a lot of the big decisions come from our city manager. And our city manager is newer to Amarillo. I think he's been here 2 years. And he gets paid around $350,000 a year.
Wow.
He makes more than the vice president does.
So explain that. I think that's interesting. I know a little bit about this, but I think a lot of people don't. There's a mayor, but there's a city manager that really does the day-to-day work of keeping the city running.
Yeah, so essentially the council and the mayor work hand in hand with the city manager. And the city manager can also make those big decisions as opposed to the council that will have something brought to them.
Right.
Which a lot of the times the city manager can go to them and it still has to go through the mayor and the council.
Is the city manager elected?
Yeah, the city manager, I believe, is elected.
And do you find there to be a redundancy between the mayor and the city manager?
Yes, but that also is another side effect of at large. It does seem a bit redundant because the mayor is essentially a council member.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of difference between what the mayor can do and any of the 4 council members.
Okay, so when is the election?
May 4th.
May 4th. May the 4th be with you. That bullshit. I had to acknowledge that. And are there polls that you can tell us about?
Yeah, so essentially based on what district you're in, there's 2 districts in Amarillo. There's Potter County and Randall County. And this is another thing that's very bizarre is Randall County is generally the wealthier part of Amarillo, where Potter County tends to be a bit more low income. Where Randall County, I think, has about 80,000 something registered voters. Potter County has less than 50,000 registered voters. So you can see the obvious gap between the 2 counties and where the incumbents heavily market themselves. They're not heavily marketing in Potter County. They're going straight for Randall County because that's the more affluent, richer part of town who votes in these elections. So that's kind of the split between the 2.
And so what have you been doing to reach those voters and engage with those voters?
So it's kind of in 2 spots. I have 2 battles to work with. The younger people that don't vote, a lot of that has been engaging through Facebook because it started just people sharing my videos, which were absurd videos. So then I shifted from that and started writing these editorial type pieces on why I was running, what the reason was to vote in these, what was detrimental to our city. And I noticed the engagement was decent on it. Like started to get people sharing it, talking about it. I started getting approached by people in public that were like, oh, you're the guy running for city council, and they would talk to me. That was the younger demographic. And that's one hill I kind of have to get over because they don't vote. Then the other hill I have to go over is older people that look at me and they may think I'm just a goof doing it for a joke, and trying to talk to them and tell them why I'm running and show them, I'm not incompetent. These are my beliefs. This is why I'm doing it, and switching their opinion. And that's mainly why I do the voters forums, all the voter forums, because that's generally going to be the older demographic. So I would definitely say social media has been a huge one because...
And what about in the Hispanic community there? How are you able to penetrate them? And are you building their trust, or are you building their awareness of you being some white hipster dude?
Well, I would hope yes, because one of my big talking points has been in the Hispanic community. I've had a lot of people ask me, what type of development do you think should be praised in Amarillo and funded? And I've said the Amarillo Boulevard, decades ago, the air base was down there. It got shut down and it nearly killed the Amarillo Boulevard off. It was super historical. But then the Hispanic community in Amarillo kind of took on the boulevard as their own, started opening their own businesses and made it their own organic culture, but the city doesn't
support it.
No, they don't pay
the
attention.
Infrastructure of it is not strong.
Yeah, it's not supported. They don't try to bring any tourism to that area, and it's ignored. And I've said multiple times that that's the type of culture and development we should be praising and we should be giving money to, because that's the thing that makes us uniquely Amarillo, or those things, but it's completely ignored. So what I've been saying with Amarillo Boulevard, which is the Hispanic community, and North Heights, which is Amarillo's like historical African-American neighborhood, which has some incredible stuff in it. But again, one of the biggest controversies was North Heights had a public swimming pool that's been there for years. I went to that pool as a kid. A couple of months ago, the city came out and they said, hey, we're shutting down the pool. It's not in good shape anymore. So the neighborhood, the North Heights neighborhood, was very up in arms going, you're taking away our pool. And
just make the repairs, do the work.
Well, this is what ended up happening was the city had a meeting in North Heights at the North Heights Community Center. I went to that with another guy who was running just to watch. So during this meeting, they sent a rep from the city who was like, the pool is too far beyond repair. We can't fix it. We would have to rebuild it, and that cost would be $3 to $4 million. And we just don't have that right now. Sorry. They just said we don't have the money to fix it or replace it. And then a few weeks later, the city approved $4 million for the scoreboard at the baseball stadium for the scoreboard.
Jeez.
And so this community that's like, you're taking away one of our amenities, this pool that's been a service to
public
kids
space.
Here. Yeah, for decades. That is a massive benefit to that area of town. You're taking away, and your answer is, sorry, we don't have the money. There's nothing we can do for you.
And then you demonstrate a second later that there clearly is the money.
But the money is only there if it's something they want to spend it on. And a community pool is not going to make them money. And it gets extremely irritating because I've seen the mayor speak recently, and she has said, I think Amarillo has a high crime rate because third graders aren't at a proper reading level. And statistics show if you're not well educated, crime will go up, which I found extremely irritating because I'm like, well, don't statistics also show that when you remove amenities from a neighborhood like North Heights, like a pool, that crime goes up because there's literally nothing to do. So what do kids do if you live in a neighborhood with nothing? You take it away and they're like, oh, I wonder why crime's going up.
It's
because
you cause trouble.
You keep taking everything away and then playing stupid and acting like it's somewhere else.
It's so depressing.
Yeah, it is. It is depressing for me, and that's why I guess what I told people. I originally, when the videos were blowing up, I had this crossroads moment. either I can not run, take the attention and laugh this off,
Right.
Because like a lot of people were stoked because that first video I did, me and a friend were joking and we went on development meeting on Adult Swim and shit on there. Then a week later, I got a call and they're like, hey, we're wanting to show that video just at 3:30 in the morning in a cut down of development meeting, because they do like a 10-minute cut that they broadcast.
Right.
So they broadcast that video, and a lot of Amarillo people were stoked. Going, I watched your campaign video on Adult Swim.
TV,
Yeah, they were really excited. And it was that moment where I'm like, I easily could have just blown this off as a joke and just moved on.
Right.
Or do I take that attention I'm getting and know how to form it into something more important? Because I liked making the absurd videos and they were really funny. But I was like, I think it would be a million times more important and inspirational if I took that and, now I'm making rich old people in Amarillo angry because I'm calling out things they don't want you to talk about.
Right. I want to go back to one thing real quick. I identified you as a white hipster, but your last name is
Pedigo,
Pedigo.
Which I think is French.
Okay. You have no Hispanic.
My mom's family is Spanish, yeah.
Okay. So you are Beto O'Rourke. Part 2.
Part 2.
2.0.
I like that it's part 2.
I need to get in early on your career. I need to be the guy that was like, I'm right there at the beginning. That's why the documentary's here. We need to follow you all the way to the White House, kid.
I will never go. I will never. I've been asked.
No, I know. I'm sure that's where this conversation generally probably goes. That when you have these kind of conversations.
Yeah, and I've had people go, does this make you want to be involved in politics now? And I've said, not anything past city council. I would never go past that.
Well, don't say never.
Yeah.
You might find yourself to be very good at it.
Good at politics.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, that is a skill, and I think that politics has become a derogatory term.
Yeah.
And it really is, it can be a beautiful skill to have, to be able to get together with other people and figure out the best system of society for us.
Yeah.
And help keep that on track. And you say you're right down the middle center, but as I hear you talk, of course, I feel like you have a deep understanding of the role that government can play in communities and in society, and that one of the fundamental things we can do as a democratic republic is create the environment we want to live in.
Yeah.
And we do that through taxing people and using that money to provide the basic sort of infrastructure of a community.
Yeah.
And the more we know about how people can sort of live happier, pursue their dreams, can feel safe, that requires investment from us all.
Yeah.
Right.
And
there's a political ideology that I feel that clearly don't believe that that's a system that works anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's been interesting to me is when you're at a level of like city council type races, it's kind of refreshing because you don't have to deal with the toxic political party type things,
right.
Even though sadly that does exist in there. And it's been more interesting because if somebody tends to be more conservative and they're like, I don't want my tax dollars to fund somebody that's like to help a poor person or something
right.
like that. But it's been interesting on this level when I speak to people and say, if our city's not developing as a whole, it's not developing at all. And unanimously across the board from all different backgrounds, all types of people,
right.
they've been like, I absolutely agreed with what you said.
Right.
You know, it kind of puts people in more of a different ground when you're not affiliated with anything and you're just saying Amarillo should be better for all, not just for some parts.
Right.
And that's been the main deal. Yeah.
I mean, it also goes to the concept of empathy that I think gets lost. It popped into my head the other day, not to, I don't want to drag you into national politics, but Lindsey Graham talking about the sort of the way Trump has been dragging John McCain through the mud. And you could tell that for that was a line that he had crossed, for Lindsey Graham because John McCain was his friend.
Yeah.
And he had been, trash talked by Trump, and that was unacceptable.
Yeah.
But the problem Lindsey Graham has, that I see in Lindsey Graham, is that he should feel that way about people he doesn't know as well. But he seems to only be able to react to people he actually, physically has a personal relationship with. And empathy requires you to feel for people that you might not know and feel that helping them is a benefit not only to them, but to the society around you.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing I've noticed where people on Facebook, local people that have maybe criticized what I'm doing or something like that, they'll say something very aggressive and hurtful and rude. And then I meet that person in person and it's a totally different thing. They don't say that to your face. They're not going to call you an idiot. And then you talk to them and they're like, oh, there's more to you. I like what you're talking about. It's like this internet culture with politics has amplified that type of aggressiveness where you're allowed to say whatever you want about somebody who, especially if they're running for a type of office or politically involved. And then you meet them in person and people don't naturally act that way in person to person when you meet somebody. You're not just going to walk up and say you're a complete idiot. Some might, but that's not really typical. So that's the thing I've kind of noticed. But sadly, like I said, it's amazing how much, even in Amarillo, you wouldn't think these type of things happen of people mudslinging and doing all of these things. And that's been kind of the downer for me, was noticing, wow, that's very much a reality even here, that this kind of thing is normal.
Do you have any skeletons in your closet? Do you have anything that you're worried about? People are going to come out and say, this kid cheated on his high school SATs or anything like that. I mean, I don't know why in hell you'd reveal it here on this program.
Well, I've joked that I'm very glad I've never been arrested before. I don't have any mugshots out there.
I've never been arrested myself personally.
Oh, nice.
So I got hauled into the police station once, but they didn't press charges.
Oh, really? I think the closest encounter I've had with cops was I got caught skateboarding in a parking garage, and they had me lay on the floor as they took out my ID and made me think they were going to arrest me. And I was like 17, and they were like, "Don't you think you're too old to be doing this?" And I was like,
"You're at the perfect Goldilocks age to be doing that."
Yeah, I was like, I wanted to be like, that seems typical with my age, but that's about as close as it's gotten. I joked early on, the only thing I worried about was there was a picture on my Instagram of me wearing my wife's crop top and skirt. I thought
should be fine.
I was like, that probably could end up on a mailer.
Right.
I've seen some really bizarre things. There's actually a guy who's running currently for city council who was our ex-justice of the peace. And this is not a joke. While he was the justice of the peace, a news station did an investigative report on him because they found out he had multiple charges of domestic assault.
Jesus.
So he was our current sitting justice of the peace. So this reporter ended up getting fired because he was stalking this dude, filming him from outside of his house. So the reporter got axed for doing that. Then, after the JP left his position because of the controversy, in 2016, this guy was shot in a bar fight. He got into a bar fight. This is the most Amarillo story.
This is the Justice of the Peace?
Justice of the Peace. He got shot in a bar fight, put it on Facebook, bloody with a bullet hole, saying, "I just got shot in a bar fight." He didn't report it to the police and then immediately deleted it. And people had screenshots and everything. And still to this day, he has not clarified
No, you don't see the wound. Do you see the wound?
No, I don't know. He has a shirt on. He was shot. He was definitely shot, but he never clarified why or who or what happened. And he's been asked, and he won't say what happened and why he was shot. And he's currently, me and him are actually running for the same seat.
Oh, that's the guy you're running against.
No, I'm running. The incumbent's name is Elaine Hayes. She's the one who's currently seated.
What dirt do we have on her? Who'd she shoot?
Her Twitter's not great. I'll just say that.
Okay.
This guy is also running for the same seat I am.
Does she believe Donald Trump is the second coming?
Probably just judging off the type of Twitter stuff. But and then I'm also running against that guy who has all of that going on. So I kind of joked when he started running. I was kind of glad because I was like, well, either they go after the quote dumb kid or they go after the guy with the criminal record. But it was
so good. I don't know why I said good. Fine. Two things, and we probably should wrap it up. First question is, out of the two, you're out here in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Not a great look for an Amarillo city councilman, right?
Yeah.
You're out here. You've got some national attention coming your way. Rolling Stone. This interview here. I'm assuming there might be some others I don't know about. Is that potentially detrimental to what you're trying to do?
No.
You don't think so?
That's the only thing I have going for me because I don't have money. I can't put billboards up. I can't send out a bunch of mailers.
This is free advertising.
The only thing I can rely on is people going. Like in Amarillo, I doubt any 60-something-year-old knows who you are. But there's a lot of
Right.
people my age that know who you are that
Sure.
will see this in Amarillo and be like,
Right.
oh, wow, that's crazy, and listen to it. And obviously we're talking about the politics
And what's
what
your
I'm
message?
doing.
What's your direct? I'll give you the ability to give a direct message to those kids. What is your direct message to them?
The reason why I'm running for my demographic, that age group, is because I've seen too many creative young people leave Amarillo because they believe it's a dead end. I say Amarillo is not a dead end. It just needs us to stand up and say, this is what we think should change about our city. Nothing's going to change until we start saying that. If I can represent that voice, it'd be great. If I don't get elected and I at least got the discussion going more than it was, also good. If I get a kid coming up to me asking how the city council works and we talk about, that's a benefit. But beyond that, even outside of my age demographic, I've said I want to see a government that's reformed fairly, where we can see fair representation across the board. So
you have a very specific policy agenda that you'd like to put in place.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you're a single issue vote, a single issue candidate.
Yeah, you kind of have to keep it down to three things and
Right.
keep it clean and compact, which I've said, reform our government from at-large to single-member districts, better understanding our youth population that makes up nearly 40% of Amarillo, and finding more job production for that under 30 crowd, especially without having a college degree, because there's a massive gray area of jobs for people under the age of 30 without a college degree. So that's why we're losing a lot of that demographic to bigger cities. So preservation of our youth population through job creation that fits what they can do instead of having this massive gray area, and then reforming our government. That's the number one platform, is reforming the at-large government to single-member districts and a bigger council there, so there can be fair representation without the aggressive influence of money on our city.
Got it. Beautifully said. So then the last question I have, maybe we'll hit something else, but you're welcome to ask me any questions, by the way.
Awesome.
I know you're a fan.
Yeah,
Must be a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, did you see the first video?
Yes, and I apologize. You sent me the video on Facebook, I believe.
Yeah, it was a long time. That was like last September.
And I think I said I would watch it, and I did watch it. I didn't write you back. I thought it was funny. I didn't know whether to take you seriously or not.
Yeah.
It was a little bit too much for me to download in my brain.
Yeah.
But appreciate that. Maybe that's something about our work had inspired you to be where you are right now.
Yeah, and I think I can see a similarity in the sense that both in a way absurdist comedy, but I feel like we both are very opinionated on politics.
Yes.
And trying to find a way to use that platform to make a difference. So I can see a similarity in that. And, especially when I make something that has a VHS look, a very
We
lo-fi.
kind of owned that corner of the block.
Yeah, definitely that type of zone. So
So my question then is, let's say you get elected, you're now on a council of 3 or 4 other people who I'm sure don't agree with you. How do you, as a minority in that position, what's your plan to convince them, or, what's your plan if you get elected?
Yeah, my first number one plan would be to get in there and hopefully have a council that would work with me to switch from at-large to single-member district, because that's a little tricky because it has to be brought to a vote.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually has been brought to a vote before in Amarillo, and it didn't go through. People
Right.
didn't vote on it. So I would say properly educating the community on why that switch would be beneficial to our community. So I think that would be the number one thing, because I've told a lot of people, if I was elected, great, I could be in there for 2 years and make some positive changes. But what about that 2 years after me?
Right.
What can I do to change the city government after I'm gone? I don't want to just do something that's just while I'm there, and then once I leave, it goes back to the way it was. I would want to.
So you need to put the pressure on the other 3 by going to the community and say, make that a popular issue for the community. So when those people feel fear that if they're on the other side of that issue, they actually might not.
Yes, it would be.
They might not continue on the council.
Yeah, it'd be pushing the issue, but properly educating on why that's beneficial. Because again, if you're looking at a ballot and you see vote for single member districts, that sounds kind of boring. And a lot of people are like, I don't really know what that means. So they're not.
Have you done anything graphically to show how that would work? Any kind of like videos on it? Or
like specific where those
counties are and how they're being represented? And,
No, I haven't done like an exact line out of where they should be, because I couldn't necessarily decide that, but it would be, it's generally agreed upon what those areas would be. Because like I've said, Amarillo is very just squared in terms of communities, where it ends and where it starts. And that wouldn't be the tough part of where would the districts be at.
Right.
That wouldn't be a complex thing to understand. But as long as you had 6 to 8 council members by district, it would be better by far. It would change our city forever if that happened.
city council made up of the six or eight districts.
And then the mayor would be elected at large and the council would be by district.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah. No, it's
pretty
supposed to.
straightforward.
That's why
Yeah.
if you look at any city our size anywhere, that's typical. Most cities don't utilize the at-large government we do. It's very dated.
Right.
It's kind of an absurd thing to even still have it, and a lot of people.
Is it a relic of the time when the city was smaller?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
When I went to the drawing for a place on the ballot, the city manager did a little introduction, and he was like, this is our city charter. This is the rules of the city. It was written in 1913 and hasn't been
Right.
updated since.
And there was probably 50,000 people in the town there.
Probably
so who
less
knows?
in
Yeah,
1913.
yeah,
So, yeah, we're utilizing an absolute relic of government. It's a relic that we're
Right.
still using, and we think it's beneficial. It doesn't make any sense, but it makes sense. If people know that, it makes it easier for them to sway things and make more money and make it one-sided. I think it makes perfect sense why we still have it from a twisted point of view. It makes
from a power dynamic.
yeah, it
Right.
makes complete sense why we
Right.
would have kept it. So that's the tricky thing. Not only is it educating the people on why we need single member districts, but it's also a little scary knowing that there's people that have money involved and a whole lot of truck involved in keeping it the way it is. They do
Right.
not want that switched.
And so, for people that are listening that aren't in Amarillo, which I imagine is most of the people listening, just because of simple demographics, the message, the lesson from your little experience here in the past year or so is engagement in local politics.
Yes, and specifically, if you are younger, don't be afraid to get into local politics, because the thing is, there's a lot of people that are a lot older than you running that sometimes are not very bright people that don't have a whole lot to bring to the table.
Right.
And you're younger and you're more worried, I don't know if I can do it.
Right.
I would say more people should try. And while you're trying, educate yourself and learn as much as you can, because the worst thing that happens is you lose.
That's a beautiful point. And not to, again, bring in national politics, and I'm not going to say I agree with everything about her, but watching AOC come from, obviously not coming out of nowhere, had some experience in politics or some experience, helping political campaigns, but certainly not someone with a law degree. I don't know, did she have a law degree?
I don't know.
But somebody with not very little experience in politics, in government, I should say, more than politics, but in government, seeing her in a very short period of time seemed to kind of master it.
Yeah.
Like in her work on the committee, like you see her in her questioning people in the committee. It's like, well, this person's just a natural.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with her or not. It shows you, I think, that, maybe it's the learning curve isn't as steep as you might think. And we do need people jumping in there and asking the questions and doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah. And if somebody asks you something that you don't know the answer to, you say, I don't think I know the answer to that, but I'll look into it.
Right.
There's a lot more bravery in saying you don't know something than talking out of your ass and making it up, because that's what you're expected to do.
Right.
Because I've done that before, where even though I feel like I'm informed on a lot of things, I've had someone come up and go, what do you think of this?
the zoning proposition 2AC.
Yeah, and I'm
whatever.
like, I don't entirely know what that is, but I'll look into it.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be brain surgery. You should be able to look into it, think about it, and have draw some kind of conclusion about which way you feel, how you feel about it. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's been the one thing that was a little scary with me, that when I decided to do it, I didn't do it as a joke, because I would never want to put myself in a spot where publicly I looked like an idiot. I don't want to be up during a candidate forum and I have no idea. And luckily, I've had a lot of older people come up going, to be honest, you surprised me. You seemed very well informed, and I wasn't expecting that. And if anything, I think they push someone like me harder, because I think they want to prove that, you don't know what you're talking about, so
Right.
we're going to try to throw you curveballs. So there's more of a pressure on me to do better and know more than most, because
Sure.
they're going to expect you to
Way
be
more to prove.
Yeah, I think I have a lot more to prove, so I try to know as much as I can, because that's why I stress to people, I'm not doing this as a joke. This takes up way too much time to be a joke. If
Sure.
I'm using up all this time,
You're not Andy Kaufman over here.
No, and that was the thing up front people, I think, thought for the first few months.
And the final question, and then we'll wrap this up. What do you wear when you go to these places? What do you maintain the hipster identity, or do you put on your Joseph A. Bank suit?
When I do the forums,
jeans with the politician who wears the jeans with the shirt tucked in, the dress-up shirt. What's your move?
I'll be honest. I dress when I do forums. I wear like slacks, a button-up, and a black velvet jacket. I try to look
black velvet jacket. I have one of those, Calvin Klein.
I think
that I take to wear to premieres and things. I look pretty good in it.
Yeah, it's one of those. I like to look
respectful.
Nice. Yeah, I want to look nice, and people go, you look sharp. I'm not going to wear like a tie, but I look decent.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's our wonderful chat. Michael Cera will be playing you in the biopic of your big victorious run. You'll win the Oscar for that, and you'll go and do interviews with him on the red carpet.
I hope so. That'd be great. I would love that.
Nice talking to you.
Absolutely. Thank you for talking with me.
Michael Cera, Tim Heidecker, thank you so much for joining us here on the Talkhouse Podcast.
And also Hayden Pedigo.
He was there too.
Yeah.
Check us out on all social media, where you will hopefully be able to find some photos from this excellent podcast.
And of course, thank you to our engineers, to Tim, who recorded this conversation in LA, and Mark Yoshizumi at Hook and Fade in Brooklyn, who made all the wonderful pieces come together.
Our theme song was composed and performed by The Range. Listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, definitely make sure to check out Tim Heidecker's past 2 episodes on the show. You can find all of those on iTunes or Stitcher. We're also releasing all of our new episodes on Spotify. So make sure to head over there for upcoming shows with Nick. I'm going to let you introduce next week's podcast.
Karen O and Sam Spiegel, which is a fucking great episode.
It really is, I have to say. Till next week, I'm Elia Einhorn.
I'm Nick Dawson.
American.
And I'm Josh America.
Peace.
God bless us all.